So, hey everybody, it's Laura Eisenhower. I am here with my good friend Seth Lee Pruzansky. And first off, hello Seth.
Hey, Laura.
It's so good to be with you. We've been talking about doing stuff and we've done a lot of stuff, but now we're really going to get in the flow. And for my subscribers, especially, we're going to be doing these astro reports. And that will just help you to process what's going on during the week, what might be hitting you. And then when I do the Zoom calls with everybody, you can come with questions to have a mini reading, or you can have a discounted session if you subscribe. But Seth, you're a really good person to talk to, because no matter what the aspects are, it's just what comes through you in your stream of consciousness and just in your wisdom body, as far as how to handle some of these aspects is just going to be so awesome to hear your take. So where are we? August 28th, right?
27th.
Today's the 27th. Tomorrow's the 28th. Well, I know we have a full moon coming up on Wednesday, and we got about 7 planets in retrograde and a lot of activity in Virgo. The Virgo energy very much being where Mercury is. Mars just moved out of Virgo into Libra. But, the sun sign, Virgo, and just that Virgo energy. It's important to talk about the shadow side of some of these planetary aspects. Like, for example, with Virgo, and even especially Mercury Virgo retrograde, the tendency to worry is incredibly strong. And sometimes it can be a positive kind of worry when you decide you're going to make positive changes, with Virgo representing health and wellness and work and routine and connecting with nature. The worry has the flip side of the solution, which is often where the shadow side also has the higher octave of that planet that's like, well, here's the solution. And Venus in retrograde in Leo. Let's see. Yeah, Mars just moving into Libra. Yeah, and a lot of these outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto retrograde. Uranus is about to go retrograde. So talk to us about what you feel about retrogrades in general, what you feel about the Virgo energy when it comes to working the shadow and getting to the higher level. A lot of people are like, oh, retrogrades, but I mean, it is about going inward. And when we find ourselves dropping in vibration because of fear or worry, how do you best navigate that for yourself in order to catch yourself before it takes a toll?
Great pondering, great question. I mean, it's one of these things that there's always so much going on that can overwhelm us. Always. Every moment of every breath we take, there's things that if we were to focus on it, it would suck our energy away. And so when you realize that, then you can set your own limits, like, this is the amount of energy I'm going to spend doing whatever I'm doing in the world. This is the amount of energy I'm going to spend going inward. And the more you kind of keep that habit going, you habituate it, create a habit out of it, then at some point you start doing it automatically. And you deflect things that you don't need to care about, all the drama, all the pain, all the suffering, all that stuff. It just like bounces off you. You're like a magnetic force, and it just can't stick to it because you're literally creating a set point for your own energy and how you manage it.
So true. Sometimes the sneaking thoughts, though, they're very difficult with Chiron in Aries going retrograde, and how that really impacts the wounds of the ego. So many people seem to be dropping in vibration, knowing, though, we both know that there's always that opening for, some kind of epiphany or breakthrough. It'll be interesting how these outer planets are going inward. These initiatory planets are going inward, in order to just work with that. And the ego wounds would be just negative self-talk. And with this Mercury retrograde, it could be, where people are being incredibly hard on themselves and judgmental of themselves, and almost like a vibration of self-punishment. But, if we can get over that, then, and have unconditional love and forgiveness for ourselves and others, it's easier to want to nourish our wounds and give them the love that they deserve, instead of want to medicate or want to, like, in a negative way, or be in an addiction spiral or manifest self-destructive tendencies. And your story is really incredible because you're a person that doesn't just have wisdom, you have the experience of moving through terrain that would kick most people's asses, and could leave them with a mindset that is really, really hard to shake, as far as the way it made them feel, as far as having to go through it. And this is what I love about you. You were in prison for what, 3 years, and you've overcome addiction, you've overcome illnesses. I mean, so talk to us about that. And regardless of what sort of astrological aspects are going on or were going on, that in and of itself, is such a huge triumph. What kind of practices did you do, and what techniques or self-talk were you able to catch yourself in that helped you to rewire maybe your brain or your perception of reality in order to just be this triumphant and healthy and strong individual that you are today?
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things where no matter what is happening, it's all about relationship, right? Like, relationship is everything in our lives, because what are the priority of our relationships? What relationships do we prioritize? To me, the first priority is to use myself, Seth, the whatever you want to call that ego, the self identity, and focus on creating more consciousness of the divine energy that I am, that you are, that everything is. And I prioritize it to the degree where I just keep focusing on it. And it's not like, oh, all these weird imaginative things. I'm simply just paying attention to my heartbeat, to my body, feeling the energies of my body, and breathing gently, getting into a state of heart brain coherence, whole body, whole soul coherence. And then from there, it's like, that's the most important relationship, right? Like, our relationship to life itself. And so from there, what are the next priorities? Well, the people, right? Like, what we're doing in the world, all these things are important, and they're relationships. And when you have that one relationship, like, you're connected to the divine aspect of your own being, it just makes all other relationships so much easier. It's almost like it does the work for us.
Absolutely. Completely. So you did say, just even when you were in the slammer, if you don't mind me calling it that,
Mm.
how your ability to change your perception changed the way that people related to you. When you talk about relationships, that's a good example. Maybe not the kind that are close that we choose to be in relationship with, but is like something we're faced with. Just like the conditions of the world, our perception of it. I mean, we have to kind of see the larger picture. So maybe there's something there in your past in the way you function in the here and now, when it seems to be nothing but like kind of horrific news and possibilities of things, getting, worse. I mean, if our perception falls prey to taking that on as a possible reality, doesn't that sort of become a part of our creative channels and we begin to enable it? I mean, how does one snap out of it though, when it's like surrounding us all the time? What are your thoughts?
I was thinking earlier about overlays. I don't know why the word came to me, overlay. And when I look back at that period of my life, or many periods of my life, there was so much negativity. There was like, everything was wrong with my life and the world, that it was almost like laughable, you know? And I realized I needed to create a new paradigm in my own being, around me, just to deal with the negativity in my environment and in me. And all I did was realize, like, okay, we're on this little tiny speck of whatever it is. We're surrounded by infinity. And so common sense kind of like leads the way. It's like, okay, if we're in an endless universe and we're in a galaxy with crazy planets and stars and all this, I must be able to tune into that and have my energy field aware of it and supported by it. And yeah, it turns out that's true. I am, you are, we are all connected to and supported by that. And so when we start to look at life in this greater expanse of the whole, right? Like, it's just infinity, it's forever, but we have a place right in it, a perfect place. And the more we kind of like get excited about that and appreciate it, the less all these negative things can impact us. That's what my
Mm-hmm.
experience was like.
Wow, yeah. I mean, there's some really intense chart energies going on with oh, I think Pluto is square the nodes even. And that
What
is
planets
like
are
really
retrograde right now? How many are actually, you said what, seven or eight?
7. So we've got Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron. How many is that? So Chiron, Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, Venus. So 6, but almost 7 because Uranus is going into a standstill. And yeah, so there's a lot of the like generational planets, the slower moving planets, which I call initiatory planets, that are impacting some of the more personal planets. So because it's something that's hitting all of us, it really depends on how it works, with the individual chart. But a Pluto square to Chiron can be pretty intense because Pluto's all about transformation. When there's a squared aspect, it means that that transformation somehow is blocked, or there's a fear of the process of kind of the death rebirth. And people like you and me, we've embraced allowing a death cycle to occur, to rise and be sort of reborn and strip from ourselves or from our minds or emotions and soul, like whatever doesn't serve us. There's a lot of bleed throughs from past lives that people bring in based in soul memory. But yeah, square with Pluto, when we look at the world and where it is, and the fact that the North Node is in Aries, that is asking us to step into our I am creator self, our willpower, our ability to stand our ground and be warriors and direct that willpower towards positive change that's not groomed or indoctrinated, I think is why there's this wound, because people are so afraid of releasing themselves from the old paradigm that their sense of identity and ego that is being required to go through a death right now, it's sort of showing up in the astrology, how that growth period is so difficult for so many people. And I think the empaths out there are having a really hard time witnessing that, because we all had to go through that on some level if we were hanging on to any bit of this inverted matrix system. And I think there are a lot of us that were rebels and maybe never really bought into it, but we've all been exposed to it. We've all been influenced it to some degree. So a lot of the way people make sense out of these tragic events is they probably signed up for it to go through it, to show the rest of us what we need to see in order to wake up. Right. So if there's these directed energy weapons on Maui, the rest of the world might start to take seriously that these weapons are there. Okay, is that really the reason why something like this would happen? I mean, they do have a dark agenda, but how we can make sense out of it can at least be a call to action. I mean, do you feel like there's a bifurcation, or that these dark agendas and those that are a part of allowing it or instigating it or working for it, do you see justice coming? Or do we just have to really focus on ourselves and win the war within and just see where the chips fall? Or is it just choose your own adventure and we're not all going to experience it the same? I don't know. These are tough questions. I wouldn't want to be asked them.
It's kind of a mix of all of them, right? And more, because everybody and everything is part of the same exact thing. And so, what if the way things appear to be aren't really what's happening? What if it's just an illusion? What if it's a show, right? To get our attention. And what I mean by that is, like I was saying before with overlays, the amount of drama, and I mean, the biggest addiction of all is to who we think we are, to the ego, right? Like, I am, like, that is our addiction. And anything that threatens that, we can't deal with unless we embrace our creator self, the ability to overlay what we would love to witness in the world. Meaning, all these great cosmic forces that are in and around all of us are very accessible for anybody. And what if all these terrible things are happening to get us to embody the totality of what we have the potential to be, and then things don't look the same after that. Things change. So what if all these negative things, as brutal as they are, as terrible as they are, what if they're just like catalysts for activation? You know, you talked about activations before. What if that's it? What if this is all about an activation of getting initiated into a part of us that, you know, if the greatest addiction is to ego, to who we think we are, then being initiated outside of the ego is a major paradigm shifting experience. And what if that is, we all need that. We need it collectively, it seems like, right?
Mhm. Totally. That's key, and I think that's the aspect, that's really bringing that to the surface, because these squared aspects are challenges that really can't be ignored.
Yeah.
And of course, the psyops or false flags or a lot of the indoctrination is looking to leverage that and create a way to take advantage of people that are feeling into it. And then, well, here's another option. Here's another direction you can go in instead of that inner initiation or that awakening. And that's kind of the conflict we're dealing with. Fortunately, Jupiter is going to go to a standstill. And for the whole time it's retrograde, I've read and come to understand that it will unlock something called the Taurus Avatar Gateway. And this alignment is really expansive, very spiritual, very hopeful. And it just seems like the medicine is always there. Just like our body knows exactly what to do when we're cut, when we're injured, it just jumps in there, right? But the things that seem to be chronic or last must be rooted in something that we haven't released or worked through or let go of. I know genetic things that we're born with are a little bit different, a little trickier, because it's much more unconscious to the physical to be able to begin to process through that.
Yeah.
But it might go back generations, and just just the understanding of epigenetics and how much we can change the script of our lives and of the world. There's some really, amazing aspects that'll be coming in, fortunately. And then we have the full moon, and it's going to be a super moon, and that's going to be on Wednesday around 6:35 Pacific time. And so it'll be interesting. It's really an opportunity, because this is what I feel we're here for, is to integrate polarity. So if we're dealing with Pisces full moon, the sun being in Virgo, when Virgo meets Pisces and Neptune, that's more of a shamanic energy, energy healers, medicine, indigenous medicine cultures. They understand the physical, the physiology, and the multidimensional, and the unseen realms, and the spirit realms, and the things that have like fallen unconscious. And where's the body, the container for those things that we need to dig deep to begin to unlock? So I think that's a really important thing in these times. And then, meeting with this really strong, Jupiter, and then everything retrograde, it's like we got to really, really set a lot of time aside for ourselves to just see where this is taking us, because nature and the cosmic alignments and universal forces are all designed to help us to upgrade. And this inverted system is absolutely trying to put us on a trajectory that is disempowered by initiations that could potentially just activate what's dormant and put us in such a higher and more advanced place. So I feel you've arrived there and you hold that, so strong. What was your healing journey about? Because you said there were, you suffered from some physical stuff. What was that healing journey? Did you really go into the energetics of it all? Did you travel into just that Neptune kind of energy? Because you really seem to embody that strong Virgo, Neptune, Pisces integration. You want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, look, remember when 2012 was happening and everyone's like, it's the end of the Mayan calendar? And back then, people were always talking like, okay, what is Maya? It's illusion, right? And I know it's a bitter thing to swallow, but what if the appearance of things isn't really what it is? What if it's an aspect of us, of our own soul's journey that we're not paying attention to? And so it keeps coming up in all these terrible ways until we finally can be at such a state of peace with our health, our all the things that we're experiencing, all the drama, the pain, sorrow, death, fire, sadness, all that stuff, to be so at peace with it that when you see that reflected to you in the world, you're just like, okay, I see you, it's happening, it's going on, but I'm able to sustain greater levels of peace because I've habituated it, like I once habituated focusing on my ego, who I think I am. So again, like, there's so much abundant energy everywhere around us. Nature is here to completely support us. When
It
people
is.
say that nature is therapy, nature will support us when we break out of our shell of who we think we are, the socially engineered self. The natural universe literally supports us. And so it's endless. It's
Right.
endless. And so anything that sucks in this world is very limited anyway. It might suck really bad, it might be awful, but the more objective we are, the less of like a death grip it has on us.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I really kind of see like the ego energy catching up with just our soul, and seeing a lot of people today doing readings with their north node conjunct their ascendant, or a Mars influence on top of their north node, which is, what we're here to step into and integrate. The soul and the ego are in better communication, so that who we think we are is a lot more accurate to who we truly are. And then the solar plexus becomes the power center for the soul to express itself through, rather than the ego, who it thinks whatever it is sort of suppressing the intuition, and just that higher growth. And it's just kind of going along with what the outer system dictates, or what the reward system encourages, and the targeting of self-esteem in order to feel like you're someone in the world.
Yeah.
I do feel that these aspects with the Pluto square Chiron at the North Node, Aries, for the whole of the collective, is this growth period, this ego death, and this identity crisis of the layers, or the self identities that just really aren't working anymore, and the crisis that we're all going through as a humanity if we don't cut those cords and let go and allow something much greater within us to emerge from our higher self, from our soul, from our creative imagination. So it's a really beautiful time. It's hard to witness how much catastrophe is taking place, just to nudge somebody into just a simple epiphany. And it's not maybe so simple for some, but I agree, it's like we're here for soul and spiritual development. If we get too caught up in the storylines or the events, it can really drop us into a survival or reactionary response that is very draining, and it is what they kind of seek. So if we find ourselves there, we need to move through it and honor it, not shove it down, not let it block us, but look forward to when you can get to the other side of it. When it needs to rain, it rains. When an elemental needs to express itself, it needs to express itself. But we don't want it to make decisions from that place. We don't want to engage in allowing it to merge with our creative intent. Some people are like revenge, or their intent is to like just be the forever victim, blaming everything outside of them. Those are choices. So,
Yeah.
it's so important that we give ourselves the time and space to just process, and that we all process more together. And this is what I know you and I are all about. Let's open up transparency to like process together. The deeper conversations are everything. Superficial is just so, well, it's just painful. It's like,
It's,
so
like we were saying before we started, the whole analogy of like, there's a pen and there's a bunch of sheep in it, but the sheep don't want you to take the door off the pen. They don't want to be let out. They want to stay where they are. And so that kind of grasping onto what we think we know has been primed as like the ultimate objective in life, right? Society teaches us it's all about ourselves. So that way we can be consumers. We can buy all the things that all these different multinational corporations put out and be obedient. But that's not reality. That's a very tiny bit of what's happening. How do we know? Look outside, right? Even if you're in a city, look up. No matter where you are, there's infinity. It is connected to everybody and everything, and we all have access to it. And isn't it amazing how an entire galaxy kind of holds itself together? It's in some kind of state of coherence, but we're not. we are. That's like that overlay, like taking responsibility, owning it. We have the ability to be that powerful because all we're doing is just aligning ourselves with the natural forces of reality. And we're balancing out the polarities, like you said. There's so many of them. I mean, our soul, our energy is electromagnetic. Like, you know, you take a magnet, you can't really see it, but you can feel it. You put another magnet in it and it'll connect, you know. We are that. We are that. We're, if people could see and feel and sense their own electromagnetic field, things change
Mm-hmm.
in the best way.
Yes. Oh, so beautiful. Really well put. Yeah. So we're gonna just probably wrap it up pretty soon. Some of these retrogrades are going to be going direct. Mercury just went into retrograde, and yeah, I it's going to manifest, you know, differently, you know, for everyone depending on what your personal chart is. Any kind of thoughts coming to you this week though? Anything you want to bring to light that has been on your mind, or um, you know, like, whoa, let's talk about this.
So collective energy, right? Most of the masses, you could say, aren't committed to an internal practice of alchemizing all their negative self-talk into empowering feelings and thoughts and behaviors and energy. And so everybody's living a very kind of like superficial, you know, a view of life that is really shallow for the most part compared to what we could be doing. So those of us who are doing the inner work, it's so important now more than ever to not get stuck in the shallow end of everything, like embrace all of it, you know. And that means if there's so many beings on this planet who are living shallow lives and they're not doing the inner work, they're still creating a massive electromagnetic field of energy that is what it is. So we have to realize that we got to be, we can be so much more aligned than that limited viewpoint that we've all been sold on.
I love it. All been sold on, right?
It's
Yeah, and I mean, oh, this is such a time of liberation, you know, to just not allow this dependency bond to get the best of us. We don't need to be dependent on it. It's just amazing to me how yeah, much it's ingrained in people. It's just what people think the human experience is, just as much as they think some of these weather events are natural. I mean, it's getting so obvious. I think a lot of people are feeling it. They don't know how to process it. Uh and but everybody, I feel, is eventually going to manifest that incredible breakthrough. And sometimes it's through adversity, sometimes it's through things that are inspiring, but at the end of the day, it is all guiding us home again. Every event that we manifest in our lives gives us a choice. How much are we going to get further away when those events happen from ourselves and give that power to somebody else? And how much are we going to allow those events to bring us closer to ourselves so we get to know what we're capable of in overcoming and healing and regenerating and transforming and bringing in a miracle vibration, in just tapping into the greater wisdom. And that's just important, that we discipline ourselves to just stay in that bigger picture awareness in the higher mind, because our higher mind very much sets up these events for ourselves in order for us to grow. And that's why we're not victims. It doesn't mean, you know, you set up like something horrific, like a traumatic, violent act, you know, put upon you. But, you know, to a certain degree, if that patterning is there, which often it is, when I look at a chart and somebody tells me their story or their childhood abuse or things that have happened in partnership and relationship, a lot of it is bleed overs, you know, things that have to just be revisited for the door to finally close, for you to call your power back, for you to, you know, stand your ground and seek deep healing if you got entangled in it, and build that self-worth and build that, you know, warrior strength. It doesn't ever excuse the act, but you know, I think everything is designed to help us grow and develop, and that's what's encoded in our DNA and nature. And it's beautiful, you know, knowing what the planetary aspects are, because the alignments are doing that, and understanding them and how they relate to us. Um, you know, I think can just be somewhat reassuring and help to explain some things, but it's certainly not needed, because if we're conscious and aware enough and mindful enough, we're going to experience it, whether we put planetary names and aspects on it. It doesn't really matter. But yeah,
Well, you know
I
what?
love.
It's kind of funny because, you said something about self-worth, right? Like it's hard to like really value yourself when the world's teaching you to put value on everything else around you. Nice homes, cars, boats, whatever, like relationship, like all these things we've been sold don't bring us happiness, right? They don't allow us to cultivate a sense of self-worth. But it's kind of funny to think about, but every single human that's alive right now has overcome insurmountable odds just to incarnate, just to be born into this body, right? I mean, what in sorry to be graphic here, but in a load of semen, how many spermatozoa are in it? Like a massive amount. And if any other one of those sperm pollinated the mom's egg, then we might not be who we are. Probably wouldn't. So just that one out of millions. So you think about that, it's like, whoa, okay, we're already like on top in a way. We came in here, we'd already won, you could say. And so to kind of continue to develop that and realize it and support those who also are aware of it, that's how we bring strength back into our lives and into this world.
Sweet. I love it. Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are incredibly, unbelievably, complex and
We're
unique.
so multidimensional, and so is life, right? And that's the whole thing, like embracing the death life cycle. Like those who die before they die do not die when they die, right? Death is like the ultimate initiation, but everyone who dies doesn't really come back to tell about it. And so no one knows what happens, and everybody fears it. But nature helps us die in the sense that all of these overinflated artificial values that were never really ours, we were sold them. Nature just washes that away, and it can feel like you're dying because you're so addicted to who you think you are and the circumstances of your life and perceiving reality the way that you do, that anything that threatens that, you're just like, no.
And that's not nature. That's not nature.
Not,
We don't see the leaves on the trees freaking out before winter, like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. You know, it's gonna get really cold. It's just the spring comes and the abundance is back, and it's just it's part of the cyclical nature of things, and going into that place of the womb of the mother, going into the crone energy, going into the death cycle, to be transformed, to plant seeds, to be introspective, I mean, there's some places that don't have those seasons, but when we see the natural confidence within just the natural forces and cycles, I mean, not to say that animals don't get scared of their prey or predator that's coming after them, that's a whole nother thing, but I feel that the death and regeneration and the way the web of life sustains itself is very much what our soul essence is all about. And that's why the world soul and its revealing of the elementals and all the animal spirits and the oceans and the sky and the cosmos and the creative imagination that's connected to the infiniteness of that which is available within our own consciousness, and how we work with that. We're a very interesting species in how we can manifest based in just the nature that surrounds us, and that is the biggest growth to embrace. And we know that the plants and animals, they're medicine. There's something for everything, and there's some sort of likeness or affinity towards certain animal spirits, and the body has receptors for all the herbs that can pretty much tackle most of the issues that we deal with. And it's beautiful how much our mother is unconditionally loving and abundant to provide all that, and how under attack it's been. That alone should be enough for people to see how much our soul essence is being threatened to fully express itself. And that in moving beyond the things that are attempting to, we hold that override frequency, that once we claim that, they have nothing on it, because no dark technology can mimic it. It can only imitate ego and lower vibrations that it can assimilate people into, because they've dropped into divide and conquer, or negative ego indoctrinated subpersonalities that are not switched on. That's why they call it 3D, because it's just lower chakras. So my gosh, I don't know.
Yeah,
Any final thoughts? I mean, we're gonna probably meet again this week, maybe yeah, right before the full moon. If not, we're definitely gonna do this on a weekly basis as time allows, as far as where we are. Um, it's just something we definitely will do regularly, and I'll be sharing your incredible meditations. But yeah, any thoughts on what I just said or final thoughts?
thank you as always. I love working with you. You've been a huge inspiration in my life for since we met. So thank you for that. The only thing that I'd like to offer up to everybody is what I said before. Those who die before they die do not die when they die. It'd be great if people can consider that, feel into it, see what it might mean for you. Don't be attached to any belief systems around it. Just kind of process that. What could that possibly mean for you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love it. Oh gosh, boy, I feel very uplifted.
Mm.
I'm definitely experiencing some of these planetary aspects. I mean, we all do. And it's always incredible, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. It's just the beauty of the growth, embracing the discomfort and knowing it's so temporary. Just keep breathing through it, and don't submit to those lower mental energies that just lose sense of your capacity to communicate from wisdom and like you say, coherence and clarity. Not let it just drop you, because the magician energy is Mercury. It manifests. It's the magician. When we fall into the lower octaves of the mental body, we only perceive the things that reinforce the fears, the anxieties, and the stressors. The body certainly doesn't like it. That's why it reacts in constriction and pain and rapid heartbeat, because it's saying, wait a second, your body does not like it. It's not a vibration that, the tranquility, everything the body says yes to are the thought forms that we should attach ourselves to bring in, which is coming from our higher mind, coming from living our truth, coming from being able to just shift our perspective in a way that serves our growth and development and well-being, and that every challenge is an opportunity instead of a reason to fall apart. So thank you for all that you share, because you've been such an incredible friend. And when I have my moments, I just know, yeah, friends like you just whoop right back.
Here for you.
That doesn't happen often. I mean, I thought I'd processed through a lot of the stuff that's coming up lately for me, but I have to say, most of my boys have moved, and it's great because they're at that age. But yeah, just resetting a lot in my own personal life, and just feeling a little bit of the discomfort, but it's beautiful in the long run. So I hope everybody's moving through your passages in a nice, graceful and easy way. And if not, just give yourself the opportunity to release, and we'll just stay in the unified love and be true to ourselves, and be good to one another. Right.
Yep. For sure.
Yay. Okay, Seth. Well, I'll see you next time. Much love
Okay.
to you. And thanks everybody for tuning in.